When I was young, I struggled with English more than anything else. Every word felt heavy. Every sentence felt like a mountain I could never climb. I didn't have the best teachers, I didn't have expensive schools, and I didn't even have the resources many people take for granted today. But I had something much more powerful. I had hunger. The hunger to learn, to grow, and to connect with the world beyond my small town. At that time, most people around me told me English was impossible, that I would never master it, that I should focus only on what was practical. But I refused to accept that. I knew that if I could learn this language, it would open doors that nothing else could. So, I created my own classroom, not in a school, not in a fancy building, but in the streets, in the books I borrowed, in the people I met. I would ride my bicycle for miles just to find tourists, just to practice a few broken words. I made mistakes every single day. People laughed at me, corrected me, sometimes even ignored me. But I kept going, because mistakes are the tuition fee of success. The truth is, schools never taught me how to really learn. They gave me grammar, but not confidence. They gave me vocabulary lists, but not courage. What truly taught me English was persistence, the willingness to fail, to embarrass myself, to be patient when progress was invisible. Every morning, I would stand in front of the mirror and practice speaking out loud. Every night, I would listen to tapes, even if I understood nothing at first. Slowly, word by word, sentence by sentence, the language began to live inside me. And here is the secret no school will ever teach you. Learning is not about talent, it's about obsession. If you want something badly enough, you will find a way. I wasn't smarter than anyone else. I wasn't richer, but I had a fire inside me that refused to die. That fire pushed me through every rejection, every failure, every doubt. English gave me opportunities I could never imagine. It connected me with people across the world. It gave me a vision beyond my own borders, and it became the bridge that transformed my life. And if I, someone with no resources, no privilege, and no gift for languages could learn it, then so can you. Don't wait for the perfect school, the perfect teacher, or the perfect moment. Start with what you have, where you are, and use every chance to practice. Speak even when your voice shakes, learn even when you feel lost, and never ever give up, because the world doesn't belong to those who wait for opportunities, it belongs to those who create them. Now let me ask you, do you want to learn fast? Then stop waiting for permission. Start today. Start small, but don't stop. The secret is not in the classroom, it is inside you. If you have the hunger, if you have the fire, nothing, not even the toughest language in the world, can stop you. The very first step of my journey to learning English in record time was not about books, teachers, or classrooms. It was about hunger. Hunger is the foundation, the fire that makes everything else possible. Without it, no matter how many resources you have, nothing will truly change. And with it, even if you start with nothing, you can create everything. When I was young, I had almost no access to good schools, good teachers, or proper learning materials. My environment was not designed to help me grow. Most people around me didn't believe in the importance of learning English at all. They thought it was unnecessary, a waste of time, even foolish. But deep inside me, I had a hunger to connect with the world. I could see that the world was bigger than the place I was living in, and I knew that English was the bridge that could take me there. That hunger became my first teacher. This is the truth schools don't tell you. Resources don't guarantee success. How many students sit in classrooms filled with books, computers, and highly trained teachers, but still never learn with passion? How many people pay for expensive courses, memorize lists of vocabulary, but give up after a few months because the fire is missing? The difference between those who succeed and those who quit is not money or talent, it is hunger. I remember when I first decided to learn English seriously, I didn't wait for a perfect teacher. I didn't wait for a fancy textbook. I didn't wait for permission. I simply asked myself one question: how badly do I want this? And the answer was, more than anything. That hunger became the engine that carried me forward. When you are hungry to learn, you don't complain about what you don't have. You make use of what you do have. I didn't have internet, but I had old cassette tapes. I didn't have a foreign teacher, but I had tourists who came to visit. I didn't have proper classes, but I had time and determination. Hunger makes you resourceful. Hunger forces you to turn every small opportunity into a classroom. Think about it. When someone is truly hungry for food, they don't care if the plate is silver or wooden, if the meal is simple or luxurious. curious, they just want to eat. The same is true for learning. If you are truly hungry for knowledge, you will not sit back and wait for perfect conditions. You will devour every word, every mistake, every chance to improve. That is why hunger is the first step, because without it, no amount of resources will matter. This hunger gave me the courage to face embarrassment. It gave me the strength to keep speaking when people laughed at my broken sentences. It gave me the energy to wake up early and practice in front of the mirror when no one was watching. Without hunger, I would have quit after the first failure. But with hunger, every failure became fuel. I want you to imagine something. Imagine two students starting to learn English at the same time. One of them has every tool: a great school, professional teachers, expensive courses, and even supportive parents. The other has nothing: no school, no tutor, no special resources. But the second student is hungry, desperate to learn, willing to practice every single day no matter what. Who do you think will succeed? You might assume the first student has the advantage, but in reality, the second student will go further because hunger turns obstacles into opportunities, while comfort often turns opportunities into excuses. That is exactly what happened to me. People thought I was wasting my time, but my hunger made me see what they could not see. Every tourist was not just a traveler, but a teacher. Every book was not just paper, but a door. Every word I learned was not just vocabulary, but a key that unlocked the world. So, the first step is clear. Before you look for methods, before you worry about mistakes, before you even think about success, you must ignite your hunger. Ask yourself, do I want this badly enough? If the answer is yes, then everything else becomes possible. Hunger will push you forward when motivation is gone. Hunger will carry you when others tell you to give up. Hunger will transform your journey into something unstoppable. The second step of my journey was creating my own classroom. Once the hunger was burning inside me, I realized something important. Waiting for schools, teachers, or systems to give me the perfect environment was useless. If I truly wanted to learn, I had to build that environment myself. This was not about sitting in a traditional classroom with a blackboard and books. This was about turning the world around me into my classroom. Most people believe that learning only happens inside schools. They think they need an official teacher, a structured course, or a formal program to make progress. But I discovered something different. Schools can give you knowledge, but they cannot give you wisdom. They can teach you grammar rules, but they cannot teach you courage to speak. They can provide books, but they cannot provide hunger. The moment I stopped depending on schools and started creating my own classroom, my progress accelerated. I remember how I used to ride my bicycle to the nearest hotel where foreigners stayed. It wasn't part of any curriculum. It wasn't something schools suggested. But I knew if I wanted to learn English, I needed to practice with people who spoke it naturally. I would wait outside the hotel, offer to guide tourists for free, just for the chance to talk to them. Every conversation became my lesson, every mistake became my homework, and every word I learned became my reward. You see, the world is full of classrooms if you are willing to see them. The bus stop, the market, the park, any place where people gather can become your school. Books, newspapers, TV shows, even songs, they can all become your teachers. The only difference between people who learn and people who don't is the ability to recognize opportunity. My classmates back then waited for the school bell to ring before they thought learning had started. But for me, the bell rang every moment of the day. Let me give you an example. At night, when I didn't have anyone to practice with, I would stand in front of the mirror and talk to myself. I pretended I was having conversations with people. At first it felt strange and even silly, but slowly it built my confidence. I was creating my own classroom right there in front of the mirror. That was a classroom where mistakes didn't matter, where practice was unlimited, and where I was both the student and the teacher. Another time, I realized that listening was just as important as speaking. I didn't have access to high-quality English lessons, but I managed to get some old cassette tapes. Most of the time, I couldn't understand a single word, but I kept playing them over and over, training my ears, letting the rhythm of the language sink into me. That cassette player became my classroom. Those tapes became my professors, and repetition became my daily practice. This step taught me one of the most important lessons in life. You don't need perfect conditions to grow. You only need the willingness to use what you already have. Too many people waste time complaining about what they lack. They say, if only I had a better teacher, I would learn. Or, if only I had money for a course, I would improve. That is just an excuse. The truth is, if you are serious about learning, You can turn every environment into a classroom. Think about children. A child doesn't wait for a dictionary to start speaking their mother tongue. They learn by listening, repeating, and practicing naturally in their environment. They don't worry about grammar. They focus on communication. That's exactly what I tried to recreate for myself. I built an environment where English was always around me, even if schools could not provide it. And here's what I want you to remember. The second step of learning is to stop waiting for someone else to create opportunities for you. Create your own classroom, wherever you are. It doesn't matter if your grammar is broken, if your accent is imperfect, or if people laugh at you. Every street corner can be a language lab. Every conversation can be a test. Every mistake can be a teacher. This is why my progress felt like magic to others, but it wasn't magic. It was simply the decision to make the world my school. I didn't wait for the perfect classroom. I built one with what I had, right where I was, and if I could do it with almost nothing, then anyone can. The third step of my journey was learning to see mistakes not as failures, but as tuition fees. Just like hunger is the fuel and creating your own classroom is the foundation, understanding mistakes is the real turning point. Without this mindset, no one can move forward. When I first started speaking English, my sentences were broken, my pronunciation was poor, and my vocabulary was extremely limited. Every time I opened my mouth, I felt nervous. People laughed at me. Some corrected me in harsh ways, others ignored me completely. In the beginning, those reactions hurt me deeply. I remember going home many times thinking, maybe they're right, maybe I will never speak properly. But then I asked myself, if I stop here, what happens? I will remain exactly where I am, and that was not acceptable to me. So I made a decision. I would treat every mistake as a lesson. Just like students pay money to attend school, I would pay my tuition with embarrassment, with failure, with correction. That mindset changed everything. You see, most people are terrified of mistakes. They treat mistakes as proof that they are not smart, not talented, or not capable. But that is wrong. Mistakes are proof that you are trying. Mistakes are evidence that you are stepping outside your comfort zone. Every mistake means you are closer to success because you are learning something new that you didn't know before. When I guided tourists to practice English, I made hundreds of mistakes every single day. Sometimes I used the wrong word, sometimes I mixed up grammar, sometimes I couldn't even finish a sentence. But I forced myself to keep going. Each time, I remembered, this is my tuition fee. Just like people pay universities thousands of dollars to get an education, I was paying with my effort, my courage, and my persistence. And believe me, that tuition was more valuable than any classroom could ever give me. There is a saying, failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of success. That is exactly how mistakes work. They are not signs of weakness, they are the building blocks of strength. If you try to learn without making mistakes, you will never truly grow. Because the only way to avoid mistakes is to stay silent, and silence teaches you nothing. I want you to think about a baby learning to walk. A baby does not stand up and walk perfectly on the first try. They fall again and again. Sometimes they fall hard, sometimes they cry. But do parents ever say, this baby failed, maybe walking isn't for them? Of course not. Falling is part of learning to walk. In the same way, mistakes are part of learning a language, part of building a skill, part of achieving anything in life. When I practiced English, I started to welcome mistakes. I no longer felt ashamed when people laughed. Instead, I thought, good, now I know what to fix next time. I began to write down my errors, repeat the correct version, and try again. Slowly, I realized that each mistake was actually accelerating my progress. The more mistakes I made, the faster I improved. This is why so many people stay stuck for years. They wait for the perfect moment to speak, the perfect sentence, the perfect vocabulary, but that perfect moment never comes. They are afraid to look foolish, so they stay quiet, and silence is the biggest enemy of progress. If you want to learn fast, you must be willing to look foolish in the beginning. That foolishness is not weakness, it is bravery. I still remember one tourist who laughed when I mispronounced a simple word. At first, I felt humiliated, but then I realized something. His laughter didn't kill me. His laughter didn't stop me. In fact, it gave me a chance to correct myself. That one embarrassing moment became a permanent lesson in my memory. Even today, I never forget the right pronunciation of that word. Why? Because I paid the tuition with embarrassment, and I never had to pay it again. So, the third step is clear. Embrace mistakes. Pay your tuition. Every error you make is like a coin you drop into the bank of knowledge. The more coins you pay, the richer you become in experience. And soon, the very mistakes you feared will become the reason you succeed faster than anyone else. The fourth step of my journey was realizing that persistence beats talent. Many people believe success comes from natural ability. They think some people are born gifted and others are not. But in my experience, talent is not what makes the biggest difference. Persistence is. The ability to keep going, even when nothing seems to be working, is far more powerful than any natural gift. When I first started learning English, I was not talented at all. I was not quick to memorize vocabulary. I was not fluent in speaking. In fact, compared to others, I was far behind. Some of my classmates understood grammar faster than me. Others could read and write better. If talent was the deciding factor, then I should have failed. But something carried me forward when others gave up. Persistence. There were many mornings when I woke up tired, when I felt hopeless because yesterday's practice didn't seem to make me better. There were nights when I thought, why am I working so hard if I still cannot speak fluently? In those moments, quitting felt easy. But every time I wanted to quit, I reminded myself of one thing. Persistence always wins in the end. Think about the river and the rock. The river is soft, the rock is hard. If you look at them once, it seems impossible that the river could ever affect the rock. But over years, the gentle persistence of water shapes even the hardest stone. That is exactly how persistence works. Even if you are not the fastest learner, if you keep going day after day, you will eventually break through. When I was practicing English, I didn't see results immediately. For months, it felt like nothing was changing. I was still making mistakes, still struggling with pronunciation, still forgetting words. But I kept going. I told myself, maybe today I didn't improve much, but if I don't stop, tomorrow I will. And slowly, I realized something. Persistence has a silent power. You don't notice it every day, but when you look back after weeks, months, or years, you see how far you've come. So many people fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack persistence. They start strong, but the moment things get difficult, they give up. They expect progress to be fast and easy. When it isn't, they assume they are not capable. But that is not true. The problem is not their ability, it is their patience. One memory stays with me clearly. I used to wake up before sunrise to practice speaking out loud, even when no one was listening. Some days, my voice cracked, my sentences sounded terrible, and I felt embarrassed even in front of myself. But I kept going. Weeks later, I realized I could say things more smoothly. Months later, I noticed I could hold longer conversations. That improvement only came because I refused to stop. Persistence became my secret weapon. I also noticed something interesting. Persistence builds confidence. At first, I was afraid to speak to strangers. I thought they would laugh at me, and sometimes they did. But the more I persisted, the less their laughter affected me. I began to see that embarrassment was temporary, but progress was permanent. With every conversation, my confidence grew stronger, and that confidence was not a gift of talent, it was a reward for persistence. Imagine two runners on a track. One runs fast, but stops after a few laps because they are tired. The other runs slowly, but never stops. In the end, the slower runner wins the race. Learning works the same way. Talent might give someone a head start, but persistence ensures you reach the finish line. This is why I say persistence beats talent. Because talent without persistence is wasted, but persistence without talent still leads to success. Every mistake I made, every moment I felt lost, persistence kept me moving, and over time, that persistence transformed me into the person I wanted to be. So the fourth step is clear. Do not rely on talent, rely on persistence. Show up every day. Keep practicing even when you feel no progress. Stay consistent even when results are invisible, because persistence is stronger than any obstacle, stronger than any failure, and stronger than any doubt. The fifth step of my journey was discovering that obsession is the real secret to learning. Hunger gave me the fire, persistence kept me moving, but obsession made learning a part of my very being. Without obsession, progress is slow. With obsession, progress becomes unstoppable. When I first started learning English, it was not just something I did for 1 or 2 hours a day, it became a part of everything I did. I thought about English when I was eating, when I was riding my bicycle, when I was lying in bed at night. I looked at every signboard, every piece of text, every sound, and asked myself, how do I say this in English? I was not just learning the language, I was living it. Most people fail because they treat learning as a task. They think, I will study for 1 hour today, and then I'm done. But that is not how real learning works. If you want to master something in record time, you must make it an obsession. It has to be with you all the time, in your mind, in your heart, in your daily habits. For me, English was not a subject, it was a way of life. I remember walking down the streets and repeating new words again and again until they stuck in my head. Sometimes people thought I was strange, talking to myself out loud, but I didn't care because I was obsessed. At night, I played tapes while I slept, hoping the rhythm of the language would soak into my mind. Even when I didn't fully understand, I kept listening. That's what obsession does. It keeps you going beyond logic, beyond comfort, beyond what others think. Obsession also made me creative. Since I didn't have enough resources, I invented ways to learn. I would translate my thoughts into English in my mind. I would try to describe everything I saw around me, trees, cars, buildings, in English sentences. I would even practice conversations I imagined I might have in the future. My classroom was not just a physical place anymore. It was inside my mind, running all day long. And here's the truth. When you are obsessed with something, your brain works differently. You start to see opportunities everywhere. A simple word on a newspaper becomes a lesson. A single phrase you overhear becomes a treasure. A random mistake becomes a chance to grow. Obsession sharpens your focus so much that every small detail becomes part of your training. There were times when people around me said, "Why are you working so hard? Why are you wasting so much energy on this language?" They couldn't understand because they were not obsessed, but I didn't need them to understand. Obsession is not something others can give you. It has to come from inside. And once it does, it will carry you through any obstacle. Think of any great achievement in the world, whether in sports, business, art, or science. Behind it, there is always obsession. A basketball player doesn't just train during practice hours, he thinks about the game every second. A musician doesn't just play during lessons, she lives and breathes music all day. That obsession is what transforms ordinary people into extraordinary performers. And in my case, it transformed me from a shy student who could not speak a word into someone who could connect with the world. Obsession also makes time irrelevant. Most people ask, how long will it take to learn? That question doesn't exist when you are obsessed. You don't count the hours because you are always learning. You don't think about months or years because the process itself excites you. Obsession removes the pressure of time and replaces it with passion. I still remember lying in bed late at night, repeating sentences to myself instead of falling asleep. My mind was restless, filled with English words. It didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a game I didn't want to stop playing. That's when I realized this is not about talent anymore. It's about obsession. Anyone can study for an hour, but only obsession can make you live with the language 24 hours a day. So the fifth step is clear. If you want to learn in record time, you must move beyond casual interest and turn your goal into an obsession. Let it occupy your mind, your heart, and your daily life. Make it so deeply a part of you that giving up is impossible. Because when you are obsessed, nothing can stop you. Not mistakes, not failure, not even the opinions of others. The sixth step of my journey was discovering that the fire inside you is the greatest teacher of all. Hunger, persistence, obsession, all of these are important, but none of them can survive without the inner fire. That fire is the reason you wake up early when nobody tells you to, the reason you keep practicing when nobody is watching, the reason you keep going even when every voice around you says, stop. When I began learning English, I didn't have external encouragement. Nobody was clapping for me. Nobody was pushing me forward. In fact, most people told me I was wasting my time. Some said, "Why are you learning this? You will never use it." Others laughed, "You don't even pronounce words correctly. How will you ever speak fluently?" If I had depended on motivation from outside, I would have quit long ago. But there was something burning inside me that refused to die. That fire became my strength. The fire inside you is not about inspiration that comes and goes. Inspiration is temporary. Fire is permanent. Inspiration is like a spark. It excites you for a moment. Fire is like a flame. It keeps burning, no matter what. And when you have that fire, you don't need someone to push you. You push yourself. I remember nights when I felt completely exhausted. I had practiced all day, listened to tapes again and again, and still could not understand half of what was being said. My mind told me, enough, stop, rest. But deep inside, the fire whispered, keep going, one more time, you can do it. And that whisper was stronger than all the noise of doubt. That fire gave me the strength to try again, even when I failed 100 times before. The fire inside you also makes you fearless. I used to be terrified of speaking English in front of others. Every time I opened my mouth, I thought about being judged. But then I realized, what does it matter if people laugh? Their laughter lasts a moment, but my progress lasts forever. That thought came from my fire. Slowly, I stopped caring about the opinions of others. My fire was louder than their criticism. This step is the most personal because no one can give you this fire. A teacher can explain grammar, a book can give you vocabulary, a school can give you structure, but none of them can light the fire for you. That flame must come from within. It comes from your vision, your dream, your desire to change your life. If your vision is strong enough, the fire will never go out. I want you to imagine a coal burning deep inside you. If you don't feed it, it turns to ash. But if you keep feeding it with practice, with persistence, with small victories, it becomes a roaring flame. That flame will carry you through storms, through obstacles, through failures. And once it's burning, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop you. Even today, when I look back, I realize it wasn't intelligence or luck that helped me. It wasn't even opportunity. It was the fire that refused to let me quit. Every mistake I made, every rejection I faced, the fire told me, this is part of the journey. Don't stop. And because I listened to that fire, I kept moving forward. The truth is, the world is full of talented people who never succeed. Why? Because they don't have the fire. They give up too soon. They wait for someone to motivate them, someone to push them. But the people who succeed are those who don't wait for anyone. They burn from within. That fire makes them unstoppable. So the sixth step is clear. Find that fire inside you. Protect it, feed it, let it guide you when everything else seems dark. Because no matter how many resources you have, no matter how much talent you are born with, if you don't have the fire, you will quit. But if you do have the fire, you can achieve what others call impossible. So when people ask me, what is the secret to learning in record time? I tell them, it is not about the school, the teacher, or the textbook. It is about hunger that pushes you forward, the courage to create your own classroom, the humility to pay tuition through mistakes, the persistence that beats talent, the obsession that makes learning your life, and above all, the fire inside you that refuses to die. If you can carry these within you, no language, no skill, no dream is beyond your reach. The world will try to stop you, people will doubt you, and failure will test you. But if your fire keeps burning, you will rise again and again until success has no choice but to follow you.